And we're live. Okay. So thanks everyone for coming to today's website redesign group meeting, initiative meeting. So I think we can hop right into it. Well, we have a few items on the agenda. Let me backtrack. Let's go through who's here. Hi, I'm Tierney Siren, developer advocate at NodeSource and chairperson of the community committee, and also contributing to the website redesign initiative. Adam?
Hey, I'm Adam, web developer at LinkedIn and member of community committee, helping out with website redesign.
Awesome. Manil?
Hi, I'm Manil, member of the ComCom and contributor to the website redesign initiative.
And I already forgot your name. I'm sorry. I don't want to say your last name.
Francisco. And I'm here representing RunKit to talk about, I guess, the possibility of some interactive stuff on the website redesign.
Awesome. That's good. Great.
Welcome, Francisco.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. So a few items on our agenda. First one is getting started, coordinating getting started with Node School content. Adam, did you have the latest update on that? No, I think you and I talked about it.
No, we chatted a little bit about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it seems like it might be a good base, but it might not necessarily be everything that we need. So we're going to have to kind of iterate on that. That said, we were discussing a little bit in the pre-meeting I brought up that I don't think we should necessarily continue to let getting started at the community page block us because it has been kind of a blocker for us that we've been working on over the past, 3 or 4 meetings. And at this point, I think we've kind of figured out it's opinionated enough and there are enough stakeholders that it will be kind of living and evolve naturally. And so we can kind of get a base down and then let it kind of develop from there.
I'd like to say that even though we shouldn't let it block, I think we should move on to more detailed mock-ups of what we might want the site to be. But I'd still love to get either that extra meeting on the books to plan out that foundation, have active work being pushed towards getting that first iteration out. And also wanted to float the idea of doing some type of session at the Collaborator Summit for like an in-person brainstorm about the getting started page if we don't get too much movement on it. Tierney, what do you think about?
Yeah, I think, did Manil already create an issue for that? I think I saw that.
Issue 29 is for topics for the Collab Summit. Once we have a couple there, I'll link it to the issue that we have on the main ComCom repo that Dad made.
Cool.
And
I just added getting started to that issue.
Sweet. Yeah. Oh, you mean the main repo?
No, to website redesign 29.
Oh, awesome.
Just commented with that real quick.
Cool.
Beautiful. And do we still we had talked in the last 2 meetings about an additional 3rd meeting, or
yes,
about design content. I'm happy to get a doodle sent out for that.
That would be extremely helpful.
I want that. Cool. I'll add that to my list.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Is that the doodle for the special meeting, Adam?
Yeah, for just like getting a first pass at what do we want in getting started. What's the list of topics? Let's at least make a proposal and start iterating on it, even though we're not going to allow it to block the redesign to move forward.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I think, do we have anything else to say on that that issue? Getting started?
I just, having read some of the issues and stuff, our team kind of took the time to put together kind of like a little prototype website for how you could use RunKit and stuff. And one of the things is that in there is kind of a first shot at getting started. I can just paste the link into the chat and it kind of has like a bunch of different prototypes and stuff.
That's great.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'd definitely love to see that. I can actually screen share that if we want as well.
Cool.
Okay, cool. 1 second here. Did you paste it in the Zoom chat?
I am in the act of pasting it.
Okay, cool. I'm just writing so that out real quick.
I believe that's it.
Cool. Awesome. Here, let me make sure I'm streaming. Or let's see. Make sure it's set up properly. Cool. Let's see. Share screen, desktop, and we're good to go. Okay. Cool. Can you all see my screen? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool. So would it be this one?
Yeah, so we kind of broke it up into two main things. One of them is kind of like how to integrate kind of just runnable code throughout kind of the entire documentation experience, and that's the first link. And then if you scroll down to the third paragraph, there's a specific take on like a getting started approach, and that's the second link.
Awesome. Yeah. Sorry for my cat. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. And I honestly also think this might be useful for the docs because we have code blocks that are just code blocks.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. If you kind of read the little blurb, what we've actually done is take the exact markdown files that generate the current documentation and just try to see how far we could get using just that without like rethinking it or anything. And kind of what we found is that it kind of already is very example driven, and all we've tried to do is kind of take this like literate programming approach where like you're reading about it and you're getting to play around with it on the right.
Yeah.
So this is literally just pairing the code examples with that's already in the docs.
Right. And if you like click on like the little buffer and stuff, you'll see that you can like open it up and actually like the little triangle there on the left. If you just look at, you can actually kind of like look at all the stuff and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then the getting started is less about kind of these like individual snippets and more about so if you edit that, like if you change that the world and hello world there, it's actually like it's a live running endpoint, and so like it'll refresh the little browser there on the right, and you'll actually like see it in action really cool. And stuff.
Yeah,
and
nice.
I didn't have time for this, but like this is like we mean to like show the link so you can like if you want you can load it on your phone or whatever too, right? So these are all like running servers right now.
Gotcha. That's very nice.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the time and effort put into this demo.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when we first started working on RunKit, we actually started with kind of a version of this site, which is just because at the time we really needed like sites that could like have hundreds of different embeds in them just for like performance testing and stuff. So we've actually been thinking about this exact problem for a long time.
That's really cool. One question I have is RunKit like only for applications? Like could we, because I know we have a few people who are invested in doing like Docker tutorials on the site. Would we be able to do a Docker image as well? And this is just me reaching, like this isn't a requirement. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so we actually have kind of different levels of kind of extraction that we could offer. And so like the very base level of what we do is we can give you a download link that gives you the exact state of your embed with like a shrink wrap to just like guarantee the same behavior. But we are fundamentally running everything at a container level. So if you wanted, we could give you a link that actually gave you everything bundled into one container that like you could just pull off a Docker Hub or whatever. So I guess, yes. And then there'd be some discussion as to like how exactly you'd want that, but it should be totally feasible.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And that's awesome. That's really appreciate you guys putting this together. It's super helpful.
It really is. Yeah. So the one other use case that I haven't yet seen out of RunKit, and I'd love to know how it could be supported. for the getting started page, we're probably going to want to talk about, installing your own dependencies and modifying your package JSON and importing other files. Stuff that I've seen from RunKit so far has been just the single window with the snippet to run. Is there support that I don't know about larger project structures, multiple files? Or
yeah, so basically, so long answer is yes, and the short answer is I guess the short answer is yes, and the long answer is like we'd have to get a little creative, but everything we do at RunKit is basically trying to hide all the problems we the hours that it takes to install Babel or whatever. But behind the scenes, we are actually doing that. And when you type, require canvas, we're forming kind of like a shrink wrap in the background, and all those files exist. And you should interpret RunKit as simply a view on that. So we could, if it was like critical to have like some sort of like file structure exposed and stuff, certainly look into like offering an API for that. And then again, like everything, there's like levels of that. Like we can essentially make a kind of just like a UI view that makes it seem like you have a bunch of files and stuff, and they're all just little independent RunKit documents requiring each other. And what's the difference at that point? Or if you actually wanted something that like was actually kind of like physically represented by a file system, like that's something we could offer as well.
Yeah, awesome. I think we don't know exactly what we're going to be wanting or needing quite yet, but just for these snippets, oh my God, the little visualization at the bottom is invaluable for showing the output. So
one thing we actually were curious, and we just wanted to float it early, because depending on kind of like what the timeline is for the website is when we want to kind of start working on exposing it. So like to some extent, RunKit is meant to be kind of like a wayback machine for both dependencies and for like Node, right? We've been like downloading and installing every single version of everything for a long time. And a lot of that we just don't expose just because it's kind of like a UI problem. Like, most people just want the latest major version or whatever. They're, it'd be kind of complex to like give them options for other stuff. However, what's kind of interesting, I think, for the website in particular, is that there's nothing stopping us today from supporting nightly nodes kind of every morning. And one thing we think would be cool is like, I see all the time, like people are like, in the next version of Node, you're going to have this feature available. And, people say that's cool and that's it. But very few people actually go out and download the nightly. But in a world where, we had all the nightlies basically a couple hours after they come out, people could just go to like nightly.nodejs.org/docs, and they get the nightly version of the docs running the nightly node. And then, I think it's just way more likely that people are going to experiment with like new, syntax features and stuff by just hitting a website, and then might be encouraged to actually, once they get excited because they've actually seen it running, go and download the nightly and stuff.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that, and I think it's a good idea. The only concern I would have is that docs usually land significantly after code does. Like they land as it's released, so there probably wouldn't be code for the new hot features. So we'd probably have to make some kind of custom page for that. I really like that idea. There's just like some details that we need to make sure we've got covered, and like make sure the story of it flows correctly and makes sense. But yeah, I definitely think that's a really good idea. And I do think that, this looking at the buffer page, I noticed that like, there's each of the versions that's selectable. We would definitely want to change that because, like we don't want to have EOL versions anymore.
The existing embed API, you just pass a semper range to, so like you can like exclude whatever versions you don't like.
That sounds perfect.
Tierney, do we still host EOL'd documentation?
Yeah. Yes, I believe so. Hold on, let me check. I don't know, but I don't think documentation is ever gone. Like that would break a lot of links, I suppose.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So let's go latest v7. Yep, still exists.
So we may just want to lock the version that RunKit is running on any given documentation page to the version of the documentation page.
Yeah, that's generally what I was thinking. Yeah, so like that's we'd probably have to build that dynamically into the templates. But yeah, that should be fine. Or hopefully that would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But so on your point of nightlies, I think that's a really good idea, and it's definitely something really cool to explore. Basically giving people a playground for the new features, and like that, we have quite a few people who are the ones who are going out and building those features, and who have a stake in those. It enables them to go point people to say, "Hey, go play with this," and they go say that quite a bit, and it gives us a way to kind of centralize that, which I think is really valuable. Okay. Yeah, so thank you for building that. That's a super cool thing. We really appreciate you investing time into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, thanks for having us, come and talk and everything here.
Of course.
Okay, awesome. So trying to find the issue again. I have too many tabs open. Website wireframe. So I think, Adam, you said you had an update on this. Oh, Victor, you joined.
Yep. Yeah, I'm half writing notes and half talking right now. Fun. Yeah, I said before we went live, I made updates locally to reflect a lot of the feedback in the downloads flow, which I'm sure there'll be a second round of feedback probably, but also to reflect the downloads flow and to reflect the prior versions list, comments on both. So I expect to have that up later today. I unfortunately was not able to put last bit of polish on it before the meeting. It's still TBD. There's a big old placeholder for the communities page still. But I think that'll require probably almost as much iteration as the getting started. So we'll probably punt on that and not allow it to block further, higher fidelity work on the site as well.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, on the getting started, I think I said this in the beginning. I don't know if I said it in the meeting though. I'm currently going to be, tomorrow going to be working on an article about getting started to publish on the Node.js blog. I'm happy to repurpose some of that content and then also kind of note the places where, yes, this can be, go into a greater detail that can't necessarily be put into a blog post. And so I'm happy to kind of pull that together. And I already wrote a post about this like a year ago, or like 7 months ago. But things have changed a lot. So it kind of indicates that this is going to still be a living document, even, once this is shipped. Things change very rapidly. They don't feel like they are, but they are. So.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing all that content in the supplemental meeting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I also want to just say here for the record, in addition to the community page and getting started page having content missing, the home page is still kind of a big black box of what are we going to put in there?
Yeah.
Empty black box, if you will. So we'll need to do a similar iteration on content for that, because the layout I think will be dictated a lot by. For getting started, we can at least kind of work on layout without working on content, but for homepage, the content will dictate the layout. So that we may need.
And I'm pretty opinionated about that. And I think there's just having known the website and worked on the website since it was IOJS and then moving into Node.js, there's a lot of things that like come and go that we're going to need to be aware of, like security announcement stuff, like the thing with Spectre Meltdown, which actually might still be on the website now. I don't know if that ever got removed. No, it did. And then Foundation event stuff, they generally end up wanting to have a link to, if there's JS Interactive coming up, which there is, that will be an inevitable thing. And then there's been a few other things that we have included there in the past that I think we'll probably want to include in the future.
Yeah, so I believe the wireframe does include the security announcement banner, or at least the version I have right now, and the Foundation event upsell. But what I'm more thinking of is actual like marketing content for Node. So what you get when you use Node.
Gotcha.
Here's what Node is in far less than the full getting started page, but something you can skim and understand immediately.
Gotcha.
That type of content, the bulk of the page will be dictated by that. The layout of it will be dictated by that content. And I believe Olivia made a comment about, I just have like a 1, 2, 3 placeholder, like these are the features thing. And I totally agree with Olivia that that's not going to work. And that's largely placeholder content for whatever will go in there later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you have opinions on what that type of content should be.
It's hard because I mean Node is so Node plus X that content kind of changes for people depending on what they're using it for, and so we either need to make it agnostic or we need to make it vertical specific. Right. We need to make sure like we're addressing user module developers, CLI developers, web application developers, DevOps people. Like there's a lot of different things that Node does, and it's never really just Node. And so maybe we want to have sections on like Node is good for X or Node for X actually. So like Node for web apps, Node for modular code, modular JavaScript, Node for developer tooling, Node for monitoring, things like that. I think that might be our best approach. Not sure though.
Would the user feedback initiative have a list of those major use cases that we could just pull from?
So maybe. Maybe. I don't know if there's necessarily a list of those use cases, and I just kind of list the ones that we've talked about in user feedback. Modules, or like developer tooling and modules being the one that I think the Node project hasn't really been super engaged with, which is a little, it doesn't quite connect in my brain. But yeah, that's the one we've like talked about least in the project itself. I don't know if there's additional ones, although I can create an issue asking for that. Easily. I could do that now.
Cool. If you want to do it now, go for it. Otherwise, I'm able to start that conversation too.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want
Feel free to take that.
So, cool. I will take that as well.
Yeah, I suggest creating that in the user feedback repo.
Cool. In user feedback. Cool. That I will do.
Sounds good. Okay.
There is, if we're still on wireframes, there is a note from Aguirre in the chat.
Let's see here. Okay, so Aguirre built a design.
Not really. I didn't really do the design. I have a colleague I work with that is more into the UI stuff. So I told him about we want to redesign the Node.js.org. So he did a design, and I was supposed to code it, but I wanted to see if you guys are going to approve it. What you think of the design? It's an XD, so.
I definitely think it's pretty. So I guess just because I don't know how involved you've been in the user feedback initiative, or not, oh God, too many things. Website redesign initiative. So we've been kind of going through this process of a full stretch of going through information architecture, then into design, and then into implementation. And we're trying to make sure we just kind of cover each of those bases wholly, so we're not missing anything and we don't kind of overlook things, which has been done in the past. And so we're trying to make sure we do everything. And I think we're moving into the design phase right now, or like we should probably say that. Yeah, exactly. We should probably figure out what our plan is for that. So this is coming in at a good time. But we do have a wireframe that Adam has put pretty extensive work into. That I think we generally agreed on the structure for that, and it does look like what your friend designed actually followed that. Just looking at having the two tabs open. Yeah, there's only like a little bit of difference. So I don't know if that was just happy coincidence or if that was intentional. But yeah, so there's those two things there. Beyond that, I think we're trying to make sure we're going into code a little bit down the line. Just because we want to have the design well polished first. And then we have in that wireframe that Adam's built, we have quite a few pages that are beyond just the homepage that we probably need to have kind of make sure we have the designs down for those too as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how possible it would be for me to get the wireframe, so I can do like a full design of it and send back to the committee.
So the wireframe is linked in one of the issues, and I just also pasted the link in the chat. However, before that fully gets designed, we are still like in our kind of project management of this. We're still in the information design or information architecture kind of phase of this, and we are moving into the design, it seems like. So I think that is probably what we need to talk about next.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to bring that up as an additional issue today at the end of the meeting. So it's a good segue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is how do we transition from this IA design section of our workflow into a more visual design oriented flow? Because IA you can kind of do async and talk in GitHub issues, but a lot of actual pixel pushing for visual design happens offline and without that necessary feedback flow. So, Tierney, you've experienced some design initiatives in the past, I hear, with Node, and I'm wondering if you can talk to how it went and what flows worked well, or
so typically
what options we have.
Typically, we the ones that got pushed out to success to completion were just from kind of, okay, let's talk about what we need in this to building it in code without that intermediary, let's design this step. And there were efforts to do that, let's design this step, but none had the kind of, for context, there was an IOJS one. I believe the documents or the files for that still live in the evangelism working group. JS evangelism. So the documents still live there. There was one person who was working on it, and it never moved beyond the design. And they had a fully laid out design. It was beautiful, but they didn't really have buy-in to get it implemented, which we do. And then the other one was with a individual who started working at a company and didn't have time to continue to build to work on the website. That was very kind of lock and key behind closed doors, and so that didn't end up being successful and actually blocked us from doing this sooner. So that's kind of where that is. The only thing I think I would suggest for this is the path I see to success. Or one of the paths I see to success is having a few people who are interested in actively giving feedback on the design, and then those people having pretty continuous communication, probably outside of GitHub, like in something like Node Slackers or Twitter DM or something like that, just to be able to kind of reduce the barrier of posting to GitHub notifications, to having to go and check if you don't use GitHub notifications. It's like reducing that barrier and having a more instantaneous means of communication, and kind of building consensus in that small group, and then bubbling that up as iterations to GitHub. Awesome. I think that's going to be our best option.
Cool. So taking that into consideration, Gary, would your friend be interested in getting a bit more involved and coming to meetings, joining a Slack group? I
don't know, but I'm going to let him know about that. But if I can still relate, I guess, to him from what we discussed here, because he works with the company, but I don't know how free he's going to be fully involved in this. But any ideas that we have to work on, I can relate to that with him.
Awesome. Just let your friend know that it's a more than open invitation, and we love what he's done already with the mocks, and would be excited to use it as a launching pad as we kind of dive deeper into the pixel pushing part of this initiative. Yeah, just please let him know. I will, Tierney, I like the idea of getting a dedicated Slack channel in Node Slackers for this.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and actually, do I have permission to? I do.
I think
yeah,
anyone
I'll
can
go
create a
ahead
channel.
and
So I think
start
you're
a
good.
channel for that after this meeting and
Yeah.
get people in there. Gary, if you're not already in Node Slackers, it's Tierney, do you have the link for that? You can
Yes.
post it in the chat for
Give
anybody
me
here.
1 second.
Sweet. And also please invite your friend to come join. It's an open community Slack group for all people who love Node.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm already on those lockets. Don't worry, I'm there. I'll just let him know about it and send it to him.
Cool.
Hello?
Hello.
I'm sorry, that was a little hard to hear, Gary. Can you repeat it?
Oh, did we lose him? I think we did.
Oops.
He said, I heard that he is in Node Slackers, and I checked his, I just checked his
awesome.
handle, and yeah, he's
better. Cool. I'll be spending more time on that myself, apparently. Awesome. So I also had one other thing, just a little crossover with another one of the working groups. So the badges initiative is fast approaching this phase as well of like, we need some design prototypes. And the first thing that we're going to run into is just the need for an extended color palette. And I'm wondering if I have a little bit of experience designing color palettes and helping out the designers here at LinkedIn with them. And I'm wondering if anybody has any qualms with me getting something together and submitting a proposal for like a Node.js extended color palette. It'll take the current colors we have and just add a whole bunch of others.
You're absolutely welcome to do
cool.
that.
Cool. I will also get that started.
I think that's also good for our branding, the branding page I suggested as well.
Definitely. My plan is to take, there's a number of open source color palettes already out there. I linked to them in a badges initiative issue. I'm probably going to take one of those and just tweak it so we don't have to worry about all the accessibility standards and guidance as much.
Nice.
Let somebody else do the work for that.
Awesome.
Cool.
So I guess one final thing there. We should probably agree, and we don't have quorum here. We don't have enough we don't have enough members to necessarily say that how many members? Yeah, we have too many. So we don't have enough members here to say that we're moving into the design phase, like vote on it. I guess of the people here who are members, are we in agreement that we should move to the design phase of this?
I'd like to be there by next meeting.
Okay.
I feel like we have a couple. I want to get the updated wireframe out finally, and just get that last round of feedback. I think there won't be any major fires, but yeah, I'd be hesitant to say let's move into the design phase now, with the fear that somebody will go off into a corner and redesign the whole site themselves when we don't have the community, the structure set up for this. So let's get the Slack channel started. We'll open an issue for it in a couple places. Cool. By next meeting, we'll make that official call.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Beyond that, do we have anything else that we need to talk about?
There was one thing, but you already added something to it. I was going to mention that we have that topic open for topics to discuss for the Collab Summit. And yeah, I was just going to mention to anyone who's going to attend the meeting that they should drop things into that for discussion. So just saying that, and that's it.
Awesome.
For that. There is, I saw a notification from Olivia on the ComCom channel. So I feel like, I'm not sure if that's private business, but we should probably talk about that.
Okay. We can talk about it, just chime in on it after we stop streaming.
Absolutely.
I don't know what you're talking about, so yeah. Well, let's wait till we're done streaming. Cool. Sounds good. And with that, I think we can end it. So thanks everyone for coming. I'll give you back about 20 minutes of your day. See ya.
Sorry, just a quick question. I can post the stuff I did in that issue, I guess. I'm just wondering. I mean, we're all excited here to help in whatever way we can. I'm not sure, again, it's my first one of these
Yeah.
meetings, so we can keep kind of doing stuff like we've been doing and just, you know, suggesting stuff, or I don't know if you guys want something more formal, but just throwing it out there that, you know, we definitely have in our minds like slated time for this if you guys want us to spend time on this. So
so I think Adam, what's your kind of view on a time frame for that? Because I think that like we're kind of discussing earlier, we're going through a kind of set of phases: information architecture, design, and then implementation. And the implementation bit is definitely where we're gonna be using whatever the tool is that we end up deciding on. And so that I don't know if we need to wait with you on that, or if we need to, if we can start doing stuff now. And I'm probably leaning toward wait a little bit, but I'm not sure.
So definitely post that link on the GitHub issue. I think that's immensely valuable for anybody who is not in this meeting to see. Yes. Like that is an amazing demo. The one I'd love to see some type of implementation example around just a basic multi-file version of that. So like two RunKit projects, one imports the other, runs it, just because I know that will be a use case on the getting started page. But otherwise, I'm gonna also extend an invite to you for the, I'll add you to the Doodle invitation list for the getting started breakout working session that we're gonna host probably sometime next week.
Okay.
Where we'll get a lot more into the nitty gritty of actual content for the getting started page. And hopefully that can help guide where you think your group should head in helping to slowly converge on a solution. I'd be hesitant to say that we're gonna make a choice until we have all the getting started content worked out. But we definitely want to keep engaging you and make sure that make sure that you're aware of all the content that we're hoping to share.
Yeah.
And make sure that we're aware of what RunKit can offer to fulfill the needs that we're.
And just sorry, which issue is the one I should be commenting? Is it like the meeting issue for this meeting, or like the?
I think the original issue where we were talking about brainstorming for it's issue number 12, I believe. Tech exploration for in-browser Node Playground. Yeah, if we keep the conversation flow in there, that'd be awesome.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. So, and I didn't mean to cut you off there. I didn't mean to cut it short there. Apologies. And so with that, I think we can end. So if you're a member, please stick around. Otherwise, have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming, Francisco.